Hello and welcome to the Spiritual Lounge with Courtney
And Nina.
and Oliver.
Guest of honor.
Yeah, seriously.
Always.
Today we're going to talk a little bit about in the spiritual industry how people kind of talk about how we have to do healing and everything that you're working on, and healing is, the really big focus of all of this. And so we wanted to kind of debunk that a little bit and talk about obviously healing journeys and what that is, but a lot of, maybe why or why not you don't need that for everything that you do.
Right? Because that's a big one.
Yes.
And I think, to me, the biggest issue with that is the energy gets very heavy.
Yes.
And the vibration gets very low.
Yes.
And we're not saying, and we're not saying don't heal.
Yeah.
And because healing is a huge part of the light worker's journey in general.
Yeah.
It's really coming full circle with your journey and turning a lot of those pains and a lot of the things that have happened to you in your life into your greatest strengths.
Yeah. And I'm with you. I think, there's a big piece of this that, I think we've both been on healing journeys where you have to heal certain pieces of yourself. And I'm not saying don't heal, don't go off and do this. But I think there's a piece where we get on this continuous journey of heal, and just keep doing that instead of taking where you're at and saying, okay, like what are different things that I enjoy to do? And not everything has to be about healing.
Absolutely. And the ego,
oh my gosh,
the mind loves that because it's still, it's that imaginary journey that you've created in your mind where it's like, you're over here, you're damaged, you're not whole, you're not healthy, you're still not worthy of the things that you want. And then the life that you want is over here. And that you're kind of never going to get there. And you're just sort of this hamster on a wheel.
Or like the grass is almost greener. If you go through that.
And the energy gets really heavy.
It does.
And you can almost, like, my biggest thing is don't miss your life.
Yeah.
Because your life is happening right now.
Yes. Yeah. I'm with you. I've been exploring some different things, and I think, even when it comes to what I do in sound healing is, I look at it as I work with a lot of people who are burnt out. And so I think having a shorter amount of time to do sound healing sessions or doing breath work or doing these different things, I think are really helpful. And I really believe in that, like bring out the childlike energy, and this doesn't have to be so heavy. And I'm noticing there's a lot of people in the spiritual community, and there's nothing wrong with it, but are just very focused on these hour and a half long, 2 hour long sessions. And let's keep doing that. And I think there's a piece where there's time in that when you're maybe starting on your spiritual journey and you're starting to heal and you're trying to figure everything out. But I think once you've gotten to a point where you've healed quite a bit, obviously no one has ever done healing. That's like me, number one red flag. When someone's like, I'm healed, I'm like,
I'm completely perfect. Red flag.
Run.
Major.
But as you go through it, you realize like maybe there's once a month you do something that's very deep healing, but a lot of times you're focusing on what do I have in my toolbox that helps me with whatever you're going through on a day-to-day basis.
To just move through your life as you are right now.
And keep up like that lighthearted energy, like you said. I think sometimes when we get into this, like, let's go through this deep trauma healing, great. Like there's moments where you need to, but then it's like, all right, now we've moved through some of that. Like, how can we just keep, focusing on ourselves and maybe even doing a minimal amount of healing as you're going through this, instead of this like abrupt right in your face, like let's go in the trenches. And you're like, great. Sometimes.
And again, you don't want to pick up a belief system of I have to be perfectly healed before I can live the life that I want to live. Because you're putting yourself in a very strange energetic position where you're essentially holding this mindset of I can't have what I want yet. But like, when are you ever gonna get there? And you don't want to be in this never-ending
cycle of this.
Because time passes, time goes by
real fast,
and you don't want to hold the life that you want to live so far outside of yourself, because you're allowed to have a human experience. That's like why we incarnated here, to have a human experience. We're spiritual beings in a physical reality, and we're meant to have ups and downs. It's never going to be perfect, but you also don't need to be putting that stress and that pressure on yourself that I can't have what I want till I'm till I'm good, till I'm healed. It's like this very strange energy of not being good enough, being defective somehow. You're not defective. You're having life experiences.
Yeah.
And hopefully you're having life experiences because we're here for change. We're here to explore, to play, to have a unique time.
I completely agree.
Yeah.
What do you think about when, you see people online talk a lot about in the spiritual community of like, well, if you want to be like this, start changing your entire lifestyle to look like that to get to that place. Like, what's your thought on that?
I find it very overwhelming.
Yeah.
And it can be so disheartening too to people because it's like, oh, I have to give up who I am.
Yes.
And like the core of who you are isn't really going to change.
Right.
Like you are who you are. You're just probably going to be a little bit more of a balanced version of that.
Yes.
Maybe you have better coping tools,
Yeah.
better like a toolbox that can help you through challenging moments and things that come up. Because the point isn't to get to a place where you never have anything come up.
Yeah.
That's not possible. But it's knowing how to move through things.
Yes.
And sometimes when you put this that pressure on yourself, it can make you spiral even more. Because again, it's this thing of like perfection and that there's some like standard you have to get to and then you can have the life that you want. And
that's not how it is.
It's not how it is. And I don't know about you, Courtney, but like when there's so much pressure to change all these things, I'm not going to want to do it.
No, nor does it stay. It's like the New Year's goals that are like wake up and every day I'm gonna wake up at 5 a.m. and go to the gym for an hour and do this, and you're like, okay, like in theory, wonderful,
great,
but like realistically look at that and say, okay, but like maybe I need to add more movement. Maybe it's a different time in my life. Maybe that's over lunch going for a walk. Yeah. Well, let's be realistic. But we'll get into that in a whole New Year's session of all the things.
Oh yeah, we have lots of good stuff planned for the new year.
Well, let's take a quick pause here, and we will do our, weekly tarot reading.
Yeah,
and give
so you can
look
at
of
some of the energy.
Yeah, I'm excited. Well,
me too.
See you guys in a couple minutes. Bye.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to your weekly tarot reading here on the Spiritual Lounge podcast. Let's take a look at the energy this week. Okay, we have 10 of Wands. Feeling a little overburdened with things. You might be taking on too much too, which is funny because that ties in perfectly with today's conversation regarding overdoing it when it comes to your healing path. Interesting. This is probably work related for some of you, the 6 of Pentacles. That's indicating you're taking on a lot professionally. And sometimes people have this belief system that when it comes to our professional lives, the spirituality doesn't mix into that. And the message coming through strongly today is that your spiritual life is going to greatly impact how you deal with your work life. This is going to give you the tools to feel more balanced, to make better decisions, to even get along with coworkers better. It's funny, we oftentimes think that if we want to live spiritually, if we want to, this is definitely career related for you. 10 of Pentacles. This is completely money related. Yeah, the key to your next level career-wise is going to be having more balance and bringing your spiritual life into it. So how are you de-stressing when you're coming home from work? That's a huge one. I feel like some of you are just going from work mode straight home and that's it. And then the energy that you're showing up with at home, with your partner, with your kids, with your family is just funky. Or maybe you're single and you're just not shutting off your brain at all at night. I feel like there needs to be a balance coming through with how you are approaching career. 100%. Oh yeah, this is, if you want the victory in your life, if you want a next level with career, it's going to be by finding a more balanced approach to it and really upping the self-care. And I don't mean self-care by overscheduling yourself like crazy. Yeah, we're not moving forward towards that right now and putting on more stress with ourselves. What we want to do is just take a couple minutes in your car when you come home from work to just breathe, right? Don't jump into social media. Don't jump into the next thing. Don't jump into a conversation, a phone call. Come back to yourself. Spirit really wants you to know that too. That's coming through very strongly. Let's see a final card to kind of wrap this up. A little bit of advice from Spirit on how you can implement that. Let's see. Okay, yeah. Again, highly tied to your career. If you're feeling burnt out career-wise, if you're feeling like you're ready to just pack it all up and move to an island somewhere, a fresh perspective is available for you. A completely fresh energy in your current situation is available. And it's not about having to get a new job, get a new coworker, get a new boss, everything like that. It literally is totally available for you right now, but it's going to require you to set an energetic standard for yourself, coming back to who you are, coming back to calm, coming back to peace. And yeah, it's funny. Spirit's coming through very, very strongly on, for you, it's career related. You don't have to burn it all to the ground. You can truly make that choice for ease, for flow right now, today. And it's wild how much this tied in with today's podcast episode. But again, it's not about burning it all to the ground and starting over and that thing is going to be better. That energy is going to go with you wherever you are because it's who you are. So choose to start implementing a new energy, a fresh perspective. Take part in some self-care. Stop overburdening yourself. I know it's easier said than done in the modern world, but this peace, this calm, this ease, this flow is available today, right now, in your current situation. So remember that. Thank you for joining me for another tarot reading here on the Spiritual Lounge podcast. And have a wonderful week. Welcome back to the podcast.
I hope you enjoyed that.
Yes. During the break, Courtney and I were chatting about the different ways that we have a toolkit, essentially, where we can help ourselves work through those sticky moments without falling into that never-ending healing trap. So I'm curious, Courtney, to hear about yours.
Yes.
I know a little bit.
Yeah.
About this.
Yes. We talk about this often, but
yes.
Yeah. I mean, I think, for me, I always look at it as like, this is my toolkit. And over life, you add different tools in your toolkit, maybe some things you let go of. And so for me, I've definitely had pieces of my life where I've had quite a bit of anxiety and really figuring out like what triggers it, what happens, how to deal with that. I feel like feels like a lifelong journey I've been figuring out. And
Very
I think
true.
a lot of you guys probably have been in that same place. A lot of people have different like anxiety, depression, whatever, different things that happen. And I think there's pieces of it where, for me, I've realized for myself, like my toolkit right now is I need to have a pretty stringent like morning routine. And for me, that's when I get up, I go straight outside.
It sets the stage for a good day.
Huh? Like I don't touch my phone right away. I go outside, I do a meditation to try to be in the sunlight in the morning. I get red light therapy in. I will do like a little bit of journaling, which I know sounds like a huge morning routine, but I'm like in 15 minutes I can do all of this and it just sets me up for that day. And I notice like if there's days where I'm more anxious or, stressful things are coming up, I'm like, okay, I need to do like a little mid-afternoon like nap or meditation or whatever that is. And so I'm a little bit more stringent on like, these are the things that I need to do in the morning to like feel like
your non-negotiables.
Yes, exactly. But I think, that's different for everybody. So what is your toolkit or how do you normally handle this kind of stuff?
Me, the thing I would say I struggle with the most is taking on a lot of people's energies.
Yeah.
Now, part of this is I do work at a crystal store, and so
you have everybody, the public coming in.
I do. I'm interacting with hundreds of people per week.
Yes.
And then I'm also I do tarot readings for people. And so
you're getting in their energy, girl.
I very much am. And I'm pretty good at not just taking on everything.
Yeah.
But for me, like the biggest thing I have in my toolkit is doing a clearing on myself.
Yeah.
So clearing off all of the spiritual and mental debris that isn't actually mine.
Yeah.
It's hard. It is. And
really is.
Sometimes when I get a little lax on it, I'm like, oh, I'm fine. I feel it. I get a little, I tend to get overwhelmed with things then.
Yes.
I feel like my energy is kind of fractured.
Yep.
And I can get very spacey too. Like things will just slip my mind and I'm like, how did I forget about that?
Yeah.
And time moves on. So
Yeah.
if you're kind of already a step out of time, you can really find yourself just
Ollie's just having a ball here.
Oh goodness. Well, he's relaxed.
Yeah.
So
he's not taking on anything right now.
So energy clearings and just taking a second to reset my energy and really remove any spiritual and psychic debris that isn't mine.
Yeah.
And coming back to myself is probably the biggest thing I have in my toolkit that helps me the most.
Yeah.
And that's what I would encourage people to find out with themselves. Like maybe keep a journal and see, where do you find yourself drained? Where do you find yourself after, is it with certain people that you find your energy really wonky? The answer isn't always like, oh, just cut everyone out of your life. It could be like, okay, how can you do a clearing on yourself? How can you reset your energy? How can you come back to yourself? And go from there. And that's more effective too. Like we mentioned before our tarot reading, you mentioned, what was it? Where it was like finding...
Like your toolkit? Like
finding that for you. And this... And it's going to look different for everyone.
Yeah, because we all have these nuances.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be overwhelming. So it's not like changing your whole life and getting so overwhelmed with the thought of like...
building this massive routine,
whole new
right?
thing.
Like my routine could be overwhelming for her in the morning, but but for me it helps me like center myself for the day.
Yeah, and it doesn't mean like massively having to change every aspect of your life. It's just like, how could I support myself through this thing that doesn't feel super aligned or feels a little off?
Well, and I think there's a piece of it too, Nina, where especially when you're coming into your spiritual journey, I think you start to feel everybody's energy around.
Oh yeah.
And it's like, you're like, coming in, you're all excited. You're like, oh, I can finally like see what's going on. You kind of get to like feel people's traumas and things that are going on, and you start to like notice those. And I think there is such an interesting fine line of like not calling people out on their shit and being like, oh, I see where this is coming from, right? Like it's not our job to do that. But I think there's a big piece of it where you do feel a lot of people's energy and you do have to figure out.
And the answer isn't to never be around people.
No, and not to cut them out.
Yeah.
Which we'll get into in our Thanksgiving of like how to handle family.
How to handle healthy boundaries with family. But
I think it's deep. And it's one of those things where you have to figure out like, for you, it's clearings. For me, like I put like a protection around myself every day and I do like a grounding meditation to make sure that like that's what I need. And I think that's a thing we're talking about is in your toolkit, have all these different pieces. Like have like some days I'm like, oh, I'm feeling whatever. And I'm like, oh, this chakra's blocked. Let me go work on that. Or this, or I'm just around somebody and I had this tough energy. How do I want to clear that? And
I feel like that's what we want to do with this podcast. The whole point is like sharing how you can work it into the life that you currently have. Not some life that you might be living 10 years from now. It's like how to be thriving in the now. And how to like, you don't have to make any like massive changes to just feel better now. Yeah.
I definitely think we should do a podcast on clearings and protecting your energy.
Because I think we both have a lot to say on that topic.
Yes, and I think it's honestly a tough thing for people to like find your balance of that. Everybody does it in a little bit of a different way. And not alienating everybody in your life, like we said.
You don't have to cut everyone out. That's not a good thing either.
And again, it's like that whole healing thing. You see other people healing, what you've healed. And, coming in and saying it doesn't have to be so heavy with it. You can see it and let it go and let them move on with their lives and, whatever path they take, you could be there for them. But, not taking that on, I think is probably the bigger things for us. So
I agree.
Well, wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us here today.
It's been a fun conversation.
I hope you guys enjoyed this girl chat, and we will send you off with a beautiful little sound bath here that we'll be sending over in a second.
Kind of the perfect way to reset your energy.
Yes, exactly. A little bit of protection, a little bit of relaxation and grounding yourself. So we hope you guys enjoy, and we'll see you guys next week.
Bye.
Bye. Hello, and welcome to this week's Mindful Moment. Thanks for joining me. Let's begin by finding a comfortable place to sit down or lay. Close down your eyes. Take a few deep breaths in through your nose and out through your mouth. And in through your nose and out through your mouth. Envision yourself relaxing in your favorite spot. This may be a beach, this may be a bookstore, this may be cozied up on your couch with your significant other. Envision your favorite place. As you relax in, you take a few deep breaths. You ground yourself to the earth. As you lay there, you feel connected, safe, and grounded. You look back at your healing journey. You may be towards the end or just beginning. You're happy you took the time to take care of yourself, to love yourself, and to really be present in this moment. You're reminded you have a beautiful toolbox that you're building, and you've spent years adding different tools to. These tools could be meditations, sound baths, clearings, readings, breath work, a peaceful moment to yourself in the morning, sunlight, a walk with your favorite pet, journaling. There's many different ways and different tools that you've added into your toolbox throughout the years. You feel safe, secure, and grounded, knowing that anything life throws at you, you not only can handle, but can thrive in.
As you slowly come back into the room, wiggling your fingers and toes, remember you are safe, secure, grounded, and loved. Slowly blink open your eyes and rejoin me in the room. I hope you enjoyed this mindful moment, and I will see you next week.